complying with any commands by police.
Right, and we even see when the police pulled up to him, he made some kind of gesture with his hand, like almost like a kind of keep talking, one of those types of gestures. And yeah, I mean, like we've talked about, it's a situation where LAPD doesn't have a ton of options here. There's no spike strips that they can do. There's definitely not a pit maneuver that they can do. All they can do is hopefully maybe at these traffic lights shout commands. Sorry, I'm listening to some radio traffic.
Yeah.
They're getting into LAS, the sheriff's department's jurisdiction, Jeff, as you were mentioning, getting close to Calabasas. So they're notifying the sheriff's department, but asking the sheriff's department to stay out of it. They want to keep tactical control of this, and I do hear them coordinating, allowing some additional units to be involved in this pursuit. One, because he's armed, right, which is always a concern, but two, because now we're getting, out of LAPD's jurisdiction, and they want to make sure they have enough units to handle this situation. But, as Desmond gets a nice tight shot there, you can see he is, he's talking to them, he's yelling at them. So hopefully these, the good part about him coming to a stop at the intersections like he's supposed to do, hopefully that's giving these officers a chance to maybe try and reason with him a little bit, because obviously they're not going to be able to do that over the phone, because he's driving this motorcycle. And Des, is that a red light?
I believe that was a red light. Yeah, the traffic from Calabasas Road there was, trying to go, and then he just went right through it. So now we are on to Mulholland Drive. Valley Circle turns into Mulholland Drive. We're south of the 101 freeway, getting into Calabasas, and this will either turn over into Mulholland Highway or bend over towards Topanga Canyon. So we'll see which direction the suspect decides to go at this point. But just very troubling behavior. We've seen, how these motorcycles sometimes will really, really push it. And when you consider that this person is not in a good frame of mind, it just adds another sense of danger to this whole thing. We've seen some motorcycle pursuits end in the worst possible way, and so that is another concern, especially with someone that just is not, in a good state right now.
So Des and Jeff, I'm just listening to some radio traffic, and I'm not going to give away tactical information, but there is something they have up their sleeve that they're going to try to do that potentially will at least jolt him into doing, the right thing and pulling over here. They are starting to talk about their options, because they too are aware that they can't do a spike strip or pit maneuvers here. So they do have something that they are planning to hopefully bring this to an end.
Looks like he took Old Topanga Canyon Road. This is just over the 101 through Calabasas. Now taking Old Topanga Canyon Road at Rencrest and Bluebird right there as he makes a kind of a wide turn. Part of an LAPD motorcycle pursuit of a suspect, the rider wanted for waving a weapon. Mike, we should also mention that Chaminade High School was nearby this. There was a baseball game at Chaminade that was canceled and postponed because of this, but this all occurred after classes, is that correct?
Yeah. So the start time of this, and let me go back through my notes here and see if we know exactly what time it started. 5 o'clock, yeah. Okay. So school would have been well over by then. So, the student body as a whole was never in danger, but obviously the kids that were playing baseball, and of course the fans and spectators and all that as well.
Taking a big left-hand turn there, so we take a profile look of this motorcyclist here, wanted by LAPD for waving a gun at a home near Chaminade High School. We're not aware of any victims. No weapon has been seen since police have been in pursuit with him on his motorcycle. We have Desmond Shaw up in KCAL, of course, as we continue to take this live here on KCAL News. I'm Jeff Vaughn, along with Mike Rogers. As I mentioned, up in KCAL, it's Desmond Shaw. Let's get the latest from KCAL. Des, he's now on Mulholland Highway.
That's right, Mulholland Highway here as we make our way towards the east. So this should make it over to Topanga Canyon here shortly, and see if that's what the suspect is thinking, if they're maybe going to take Topanga Canyon towards the coast, or if they turn north, then it'll be towards Woodland Hills and back towards the 101 freeway. Does this person have a plan? Again, what started all this was just a lot of kind of mental volatility, walking around on their second story with a gun, and with some shots being fired. You see a bunch of units that are going through the shot right now. So we'll see what LAPD is thinking. As Mike was saying, there is an idea that they have. They were, I was wondering if they were going to maybe try to coordinate something with sheriff's deputies in the Calabasas area, Lost Hills sheriffs, but now we're back in LA jurisdiction as we are on Topanga Canyon. I believe you're actually okay, still on Mulholland Drive, but going to be coming up to Topanga here very quickly as they get ready to go underneath us, and then we'll see what the plan is going to be once we get to Topanga Canyon. That will be the end of Mulholland Drive, this section of Mulholland Drive anyway.
Yeah, obviously going through a number of jurisdictions here, Mike, as we take a look at LAPD will always, of course, be the agency that will follow this because they initiated this as they go through different jurisdictions, if you will. Des made mention of the Sheriff's Department there in Calabasas is the law enforcement agency there. Of course, they all partner and work with each other, and if they are needed to, they will jump in and help out with this, but it appears at this point in time, just a number of LAPD cruisers in this pursuit.
Right, yeah, and each department has their own kind of, pursuit policies or pursuit, guidelines, if you will. Like CHP, it's either all theirs or it's all not theirs. They don't really want to be in a situation where it's, a couple of their people and a couple of LAPD's people. The sheriffs, I don't think, play that game quite as strictly. So, if LAPD needed their help, certainly I'm sure the sheriff would step in and do that. But the LAPD has asked their dispatchers, their Bureau Communications Center, to notify LASD and CHP, but ask them not to get involved. LAPD, the other thing we have to remember about this is LAPD's been out with this guy, for the better part of 2 hours. So whatever progress they've made with communicating with him, they want to be able to retain that progress. A new agency coming in would have to start that process all over. So whatever, dialogue they had with this guy, whatever they know about him already, that's a huge advantage for the LAPD. And it would be almost counterproductive to have another agency have to start that process over again from scratch. But, as we get on the freeway.
This is going to be northbound, I believe, because this is going to go right by the Hidden Hills entrance, I think, right there, and heading northbound. Is that right, Des?
Going east, right? I think we're actually going east and southbound here. Yeah, I got a little turned around there when we were on Mulholland Highway. We were actually headed east, so he came back, doubled back to where they were, and now we are on the eastbound 101. So first time we've been on the freeway at this point. And, just because we're on the freeway doesn't mean that LAPD needs to turn this over immediately to CHP or anything like that, especially after what Mike was just talking about. They're, likely to stick with this. We'll see if CHP has any involvement in this one. But fairly light traffic conditions. This is the time of the day when the 101 starts to kind of clear up a little bit. Might encounter a couple of slow pockets around Tampa, Reseda, the 405. And we'll just see whatever the suspect is thinking, if they have some kind of a getaway plan or what the deal is. As I widen out to see here, looks like LAPD has backed off a little bit. They still have their helicopter overhead, and might just be getting right off the freeway now. One exit over here at Topanga Canyon. Yep.
And Jeff, really quick, I just want to give you an update. I'm listening to the broadcast that's being put out to the CHP officers. And that broadcast is indicating he actually has 2 types of firearms on him.
Oh, is that right?
So LAPD believes that he is not armed with just 1 gun, but now 2. So that's the situation as well. And, LAPD had asked the other agencies to kind of stay away from this, and CHP is advising their units to do just that. So, they're able to call this out as it goes, and CHP is asking their units just stay away from it altogether. We don't want to spook them. We don't want to do anything like that. LAPD wants to handle it. Let LAPD handle it.
That's an obvious danger to the public if you have somebody in this state who has 2 weapons on them eluding police. Obviously, they want to get this stopped. But this is the reason why we are live here on KCAL News. This is a threat to the public. This is a man that has already fired a gun, waving a gun earlier as well, has been interacting with police in this game of cat and mouse for about 2 hours plus now. As we're taking a live look here from KCAL of this rider on this motorcycle who's in a mental state that's troubled, we believe. That's what officials have told us. Now we're getting word from the assignment desk here, Mike Rogers, that rider has 2 weapons on him. He hasn't really been aggressive other than just showing aggressive riding skills, if you will. He's gone through a number of stop signs and red lights and been pretty fast, weaving in and out of traffic. But we haven't seen those weapons. Onto the right side is going to be some of the video from earlier today of going up on sidewalks and a little aggressive driving there. But at the times when he does stop at a stop sign or stoplight, police get up behind him. They come out with their guns drawn, but the rider has interacted through hand gestures, and you can tell they're kind of talking back and forth. I want to add that Jasmine Veal has joined me now here on the set here on KCAL News as we continue with all this breaking news of an LAPD motorcycle pursuit. KCAL is overhead. Let's get back to Des as we take a live look on the left-hand part of your screen with that video from earlier on the right-hand part. Des.
Yeah, so we are on Dunmetz Avenue, San Feliciano, just to the west of Topanga Canyon. Just kind of going around some random streets at this point. You know, we were wondering what the suspect was thinking when they got on the freeway, if they had some kind of destination in mind, but they just got right off at Topanga Canyon, and now in this residential area of Woodland Hills just to the south, the 101 freeway. I do apologize for the shot. We are shooting right into the sunset right now, and it's a little bit hazy out, so that is why the shot looks the way it does. Once the suspect gets out of the sun, should have a little bit better shot for you right now, but you know, pretty high speeds.
Going over speed bumps.
Reason to believe that there are two weapons. Yeah, over some speed bumps right here. You know, reason to believe that this person has two weapons, possibly in those storage compartments. That's certainly how LAPD is treating this one, and we have not seen them make any sort of real attempt to bring this to any kind of an end. Again, motorcycles, totally different beast as opposed to dealing with a car. Like Mike was saying, we're not going to see spike strips or a pit maneuver or something like that that could cause this person to get into a catastrophic crash. That is not on the table. So LAPD really has to take this one pretty gingerly, but they are back there. But you know, this person can just accelerate so quickly. As I widen out a little bit, we'll probably see LAPD's cruiser come into the shot here. But now just kind of circling around this neighborhood as we are on Costanzo and Via Boso Street here, south of the 101 freeway.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, Des, you brought up a good point, and we're going to show you some video of him initially leaving his garage there from his West Hills home, where he had been on the balcony waving a gun around, and that's why they had initially said this was a possibly armed suspect. But Des, you brought up a good point. This is a whole different beast with the motorcycle, the way we've seen him navigate through some very tight spaces as officers try to follow him, but much more difficult in those challenges that come with someone on a bike, on a motorcycle, versus in a car. Where the places that he can go. So again, you see him on the right. That's video from earlier, driving through the parking lot. And officers had been there already, trying to talk him down.
Yeah, and that brings up that strange dynamic that we're dealing with here. I'd like to bring in Mike Rogers from the assignment desk. This is a situation where you're dealing with a motorcyclist. How do you diffuse the situation? It's not like a car. It doesn't have four wheels. You can't use the stop sticks. You know, there's ways that they can do it with a car. You just don't really see it so much with a motorcycle. Of course, they want to make sure everybody's safe, including the rider. So that's kind of a predicament that police are having right now.
Well, it is, and you know, the other thing too is, and you know, I don't ever want to minimize a crime, but this is not just a stolen vehicle, right? If this was a stolen motorcycle, they'd probably just wait it out. Right. They'd probably wait for him to run out of gas, or they'd probably, you know, they could go into what they call their tracking mode and get the ground units to back off. But this guy is allegedly armed with two different types of weapons or two different types of guns. This is not something they want to just let play out. This is something they want to try to get under control. Now, you know, I kind of was mentioning earlier, you know, Jeff, you pointed out that he was pretty much stopping at all the stoplights and obeying traffic laws, and that was giving them the chance to have some communication with him. So, you know, that's obviously an idea that they're trying to do, but now, you know, in the most recent ones, he's not really come to those big intersections where he's stopping at the light. So that line of communication probably isn't there anymore. Now, you know, down the road, if they wanted to take it there, your other options are to bring in armored vehicles. We've seen them do that before. And box them in. But again, because it's a motorcycle, you have to be very precise on if you're going to do that box-in thing. There's got to be no room for him to wiggle out, right? Which we've already seen him do a couple of times. He, you know, came up to a cul-de-sac and drove on the sidewalk through the dirt path and onto the street behind him. So, you know, it's much harder. It's, you know, a needle, you know, threading a needle to try to get him boxed in there.
And I was thinking.
Well, I was just going to say, and also, there's really not an option for less than lethal at this point because he has a firearm. He has fired that weapon. We understand police say that he has two weapons with him. So it's not like they're going to be able to, I guess they probably could hit him with some less than lethal rounds, but then, you know, you lose control of the motorcycle goes, you know, you don't know where. That could be a harm to the public. I mean, there's just, as you mentioned, Mike, a real narrow place here for them to use any sort of abatement here, any sort of way to stop this guy.
Yeah, I mean, their options are just really limited, and it's, obviously they don't want to let him keep going. And I think one of the things, and, Des can chime in on this too, I don't know that I've ever seen a barricade suspect be able to successfully evade the barricade situation that they're in. I mean, we were to the point here where we saw a mobile command post from LAPD pull up. I mean, we were well within the initial processes of this, where in theory they would have had a secure enough scene that he wouldn't have been able to get out. But as you see the video on the right side of your screen, that's when he left the garage. And
drives right past them.
Right, exactly. And again, because of the agility of the motorcycle.
Right.
If they would have known it, they probably would have tried to get him at that point.
Right. I mean, you have 5 cop cars there. There's another 4, I think, right here at this T intersection that he comes to, plus the command post, plus the fire department was there staging as well. And that looks like an incident commander. You can see the schematics on the hood there.
I'm not even sure they knew that was the person they had barricaded inside.
I think Desmond had heard from the helicopter that as soon as he came out of the garage, they're like, all right, he's leaving.
Okay.
It certainly took us by surprise. Again, I don't think I've ever seen a barricade suspect be able to successfully get out of the area that they're, barricaded in.
Let's go back up to KCAL and Desmond Shaw, Des, as he continues now on Shoup and Miranda.
Yes, so now north of the 101 freeway, they were kind of circling around the same neighborhood, a couple of laps there. Now kind of trending back to where this all began. And you can see here, the police get out here with their weapons drawn every time that this person comes to a stop. But as soon as the light turns green, they're just going to go again. And indeed, there they go. And I'd just like to echo that sentiment. I think LAPD was shocked that this person just opened the garage and drove out. You were saying that we've never seen anything. I don't know that LAPD's ever seen it happen either. We were probably, I have to imagine that SWAT had been summoned to the scene for this, and we're probably en route when this all happened. And it was just really, really caught everyone by surprise, least of all us, and least of all LAPD. I mean, I could see a couple of the officers' faces just kind of in shock as this person sped right by them. And then it was like, well, okay, I guess we're in pursuit now, and here we go. And the complicating factor with weapons, most likely, or LAPD has reason to believe, in these storage compartments. Now we believe not 1 but 2, as we're on Oxnard Street. And I mean, hopefully this guy's just, sometimes we've seen some volatile situations, and then all of a sudden the suspects just need some time, and they pull over and they give it up. The hope is that this guy is just needed to get out, blow off some steam. It's a lovely evening here in the San Fernando Valley, a nice evening for a bike ride, and maybe they'll come to their senses, but hard to be optimistic that will be how this all comes to an end.
We continue to cover this story here live on KCAL News. We're extended here at 7:23. Before our regular programming starts 8 o'clock, bringing you this LAPD motorcycle pursuit of a rioter wanted for waving a gun from the balcony of his home in West Hills and actually firing some rounds. That was part of a standoff with police, and then he escaped, if you will, out of his own home with this motorcycle, just opening up the garage and taking off as police officers watch. As that's going to be the right-hand part of your screen is going to be him escaping from that West Hills home. And we'll hold this video for just a few minutes, Jasmine, as you take a look. Yeah. He drives right by LAPD cruisers, and we assume, you see 4 or 5 there, and then he hits a road here, takes a left-hand turn in front of another number of officers. And you assume at this point they've gone inside, if they've gotten some sort of warrant to do that, or at least maybe tried to speak to some family members, or we don't know if he was alone at the time, just that he was on his second floor balcony waving the gun around and even causing the Chaminade College prep to cancel their baseball game as a result, because of the concern that this man was doing that, potentially now armed with 2 guns, armed and dangerous, they're saying, since they had searched and realized that he might have those weapons on him at this point. We should mention this all started around 5 o'clock, long after the school and Chaminade High School was let out of classes for the day. There was a baseball game that was in progress as this happened. Of course, they postponed that, stopped the game, and then evacuated the players. Let's go over to Mike Rogers at the assignment desk. Mike, I know that you are probably making some contacts and maybe hearing the latest. Yeah, we're checking with, you brought up a good point, or Desmond, somebody did, about, the SWAT team and what their involvement was if they were on the way. So we're checking with LAPD right now to see, was this a situation where they had already been activated? And if they had, they may continue to respond.
to come be a part of this. So we're making those calls right now to check on this. But yeah, I mean, this whole look, and so you see that unmarked up to the top of the screen. It's pulling away because he's obviously not in the right place for a pursuit. But those could be the Metropolitan officers. Metropolitan, they don't always travel. And actually, I want to see this really quick because
try to get out.
Yeah, well, the thing that LAPD wants to do, they want to do it while he's at a stoplight. So
Sure.
I'm waiting to see if you know, I've seen them try to do it once, but he takes off before they can get close enough. So, but as I was saying, you know, some of those Metropolitan guys, they don't necessarily all drive in the big Bearcats, right? They take their unmarked vehicles, they'll get to a scene, and they'll all kind of get together. So we could be already seeing Metropolitan Division responding to this pursuit to be a part of it.
Quite a game of cat and mouse, obviously, as he now is on Fuchsia. And this is going to be still in kind of the West Hill area. He's kind of basically circling around probably territory that he's familiar with, wouldn't you say, Des?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, not too far away from where they live, maybe only 1 or 2 miles away. Pretty close to the Topanga Plaza Shopping Center, big commercial district here off of Topanga Canyon here as we deal with a couple of tall buildings. And obviously have to keep a little bit of a distance here for LAPD's airship, but here we go, as there's a few less trees here. And yeah, just really kind of out joyriding, taunting LAPD. You know, we've seen a couple of motions. I haven't seen that lately, just kind of been ignoring them at the last couple of stoplights. Just really curious to see what LAPD's tactic will be and see if they are able to implement whatever it is they're thinking to bring this one to an end. And I just hope that if they are able to do whatever they're going to do, that this suspect doesn't try to pull anything. Like if they're able to get to the weapons in the storage compartment, we believe that that's where they are, not that they're in this person's waistband or a vest or anything like that. But we don't really know, and LAPD doesn't know either. This person could be wearing something underneath that flannel, where they could have easy access to those weapons. Or they could be locked up in those storage compartments. But now kind of looping around again as we're back out onto southbound Topanga Canyon, coming up near Victory. And there's the Topanga Plaza right there in the background on the other side there of Topanga. As we are behind this building.
Did he stop? There is a stop light right there in front of that building. But then there's also an entrance to a parking garage. Oh, there he is. Okay, so there's a car dealership right there. He made it through that intersection. Go ahead, Des.
No, yeah, I was just waiting to see. It looked like maybe they had stopped momentarily in the middle of the street or something like that, back out onto Irwin Street. So looping back around in this busy commercial area, lots of folks going out for dinner right now. A lot of dining options there at Topanga Plaza. Been there myself plenty of times. Now we're getting away from that, though, as we are westbound on Irwin, going away from Topanga Canyon back into the residential areas of Woodland Hills and then soon the West Hills area, only about a mile or so from where this all started, and looping back around again. I think this is the second time we've been on this street. So this has kind of been the MO on this during this entire pursuit, is just kind of loop around a couple areas, then go to another area, loop around there. What is the idea? There is a really large parking garage there at Topanga Plaza. So many times we've seen motorcycle pursuits end with motorcycles going, into a parking garage. So we'll see if that's in this person's mind.
I was just going to say, if he takes this through here, back through Topanga Canyon, then he could enter that parking garage with a right-hand turn if he sets it up right here. Well, let's just stay with it, make sure that he does it, because he will be going right through there. I believe that's the intersection right there, and then you'll see there might be an opportunity. There's a Costco right there, if I recall, but it looks like he's in the left-hand lane. So if he goes, this is where he would take a right-hand turn to get into the parking garage, I believe, Des, but it looks like he's going to go straight.
Yeah, and we see one of the advantages of the motorcycle, if they're willing to do it, they're just kind of lane splitting like no problem. And LAPD kind of got stuck behind a couple of those cars. And you see with their lights on, folks are pulling over for LAPD, so only got a momentary distance there from the officers. As we are eastbound on Victory, we'll be passing near Pierce College here shortly as well. So away from the commercial center of the West Valley. It's coming up to Victory and Canoga, another busy intersection, going right through that red light there. So it looked like there was some traffic getting ready to go southbound on Canoga, got cut off by this motorcycle. So now northbound on Canoga, on the edge of Woodland Hills right now. This will take us up towards Canoga Park within the next quarter mile or so.
And maybe another area he is familiar with. I mean, we're seeing this man in his 60s, considered armed and dangerous, riding this white Harley, and he took time to put on the helmet as he sped out of his garage during a barricade situation where he had been waving a gun around, and now they believe he is armed with, like you said, Des, not one but two weapons, coming to a stop to make sure the intersection is at least clear for him to zoom through, but officers not too far behind him at this point. I mean, they haven't backed off, so they, you know, this man posing a danger not only to others but to himself as well.
Let's bring Mike Rogers back in from the assignment desk. Mike, you talked about the strategy here that LAPD has to maybe diffuse this once he stops at an intersection. He certainly has stopped at a number of intersections, but he seems to be very keen to see what's around him and go the opposite direction of where those officers are.
Right, and I was going to point that out. You know, early on in this pursuit, when he stopped for, you know, a longer period of time than he is now, long enough for them to get out of his car, have brief dialogue with him before he takes out. But you'll notice, and we'll see if he does it exactly. So he'll pull to the intersection, almost clear it, make sure there's no traffic, and then as soon as those officers get out of their car, he's
Right.
gone. And that kind of will hinder, you know, what they're trying to do. Now, Des, I don't know, you know, and I certainly don't want you to lose the motorcycle, but if you're able to see, I've started to hear additional units get themselves into this pursuit. So I don't know if we can see the kind of end of the line of cop cars that may be able to show us. You know, we had kind of heard potentially K9 was going to get involved in this, or we had seen those Metropolitan units, but you know, it does look like they're all kind of spread out there. So, but yeah, you know, they are still trying to work this tactically and figure out what they can do. But you know, the one thing that they were going to try is pretty, you know, important that he stays in the intersection. For them to do that, and he's no longer staying in those intersections as long as he was.
Yeah, that's the MO now. He just kind of stops and takes off to see that the intersection is clear. And what's so interesting is because this was a result of a standoff earlier in the day, they had all those units that were sitting there at the ready. They were able to get on top of this rider pretty quick. This is a longer stop here, but again, Mike, just as you mentioned, he's going through. Let's go back up to KCAL, Desmond Shaw. He's now on Satakoy and Jordan.
Yeah, Satakoy, kind of, you might call it a medium street through the San Fernando Valley. Mostly residential across, but can certainly be a busy and a major enough street here as we're back at Topanga Canyon again. And so this will lead us back to West Hills and, well, back now onto Topanga Canyon. I was going to say, you know, Satakoy would have led very close back to where this suspect's house is, right near the Chaminade football field. But back onto Topanga Canyon, so just looping all over the place on this one. LAPD out in force, a lot of units. You know, they need to have quite a few units ready with a motorcycle here who could gain some distance on them and, you know, fit into a tight space very, very easily. So really the only, you know, the best way, I should say, for them to keep up on the ground is to have a lot of different units involved in this one. Already seen them evade the officers after they went into a dead-end cul-de-sac, but it had a pedestrian walk through that went out onto Wood Lake, and that's, you know, just one of the many advantages that that this suspect can have over the cruisers. As we now over onto Sherman Way, and now continuing westbound on Sherman Way. You can see there as we're shooting into the sun as well. So that's the reason for the less than stellar shot here as. Yeah, cruising down Sherman Way now into West Hills.
Well, you know, we talk about all the disadvantages that police have in taking down a motorcycle rider, and there are many of them. But one of the things I think, Mike, that is interesting is as opposed to a car where you can kind of hide your activity, and if they were to pull over, you know, police really may not know if that person is going to foot bail and when they're going to do it. But on a motorcycle, they can see that that rider practically doing everything. So I guess that's one of the advantages that police have in a situation like this, is that they can see his movements. If he does reach for a gun, they can see that. He can't hide behind seats. And if he was to try to foot bail, that might be more difficult on a motorcycle, I think.
Well, I was also, I don't know if Jazz or Mike even remembers this, but it was January of 2022 in West Hills. There was a chase, a LAPD pursuing another motorcyclist, and it ended in a deadly crash. So how these things can turn out on such a tiny vehicle and how dangerous it really is.
Well, that's something we haven't seen right there.
Yeah.
Quick,
U-turn, yeah.
U-turn.
Now he turned,
Got
flipped back
7
around. Well, we keep saying he keeps circling the same neighborhoods.
It's the first time he's done an aggressive move like that in front of officers. I wonder if that means that he is getting more desperate. Mike, what do you think?
Well, yeah, and you actually see, and it may be because of the actions of that LAPD car. Now they're getting some distance, but LAPD was, kind of getting right up on him. They've had this helicopter overhead the entire time. It's the same one that was actually on the perimeter when he was still in the house. So everybody is well aware of this guy's actions, and I think our control room is working on it. But if we can show my computer maybe in an inset, I can show you. There we go. So this orange line that you're looking at, that's from the LAPD helicopter. So this big circle is right where the standoff was, and you see Chaminade High School right in the middle of that.
Right.
And so we've pretty much just gone down into the Calabasas area here, back up around, and we're almost coming back to where we started. So, this guy, as Desmond said, may not have a plan. He just kind of goes to a neighborhood, drives in circles, and moves on to another neighborhood. But now we are kind of moving back into where this whole thing started.
Yeah, we should mention, Jasmine, you mentioned that previous pursuit that involved a motorcycle, and that was a deadly one. We just want to remind our viewers that if the situation arises, this person dumps the motorcycle, or if police are able to get up there and he does produce his weapon, we will dump out of that as quickly as we possibly can, come back to us, and we'll brief you as to what has just occurred to try to eliminate any sort of showing of that disturbing video. So we're going to, of course, stay on top of that and keep that in mind.
But as you said, Jeff, I mean, these situations are so unpredictable. And Jasmine, the one you were talking about, we're back at the house. We're right back where we started now.
Right back. I wonder if he's going to go back inside, or they're going to try to stop him.
Did he make a turn, Des, away from the house?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is it right here, Melba and Wyndham, and here you see the officers.
Right back down the cul-de-sac.
So now he's going back into his cul-de-sac.
He's going home.
So right, yeah, it looks like it. So
well, you've talked about
the
his
garage
mental
will be on the other side of the shot here as we try to hurry around, and we'll see if they're just going to drive right back into the garage.
Well, this could be another standoff all over again, and that's a pretty good scenario, I'd have to say.
See a lot of officers
we see activity here. Go ahead, Des.
I think they got him. I think they got him here. Yeah. Well, I see a ton of police swarming around here, and indeed, it looks like, maybe he didn't have the garage door open and maybe had to wait for it, or what the issue is here. But as we peer through the trees, we can see that it looks like they have managed to tackle the suspect here back at their home off of Wyndham and Melba Avenue.
It looks like he dumped the bike. As we're coming around here with KCAL to take a look at it, it looks like he dumped the bike, and that's probably when they took him into custody. He probably tried to run.
Him right off,
But good job on the camera there, Des, as we're taking a live look at the end of this LAPD motorcycle pursuit that started a little bit after 5 o'clock, so better part of 2.5 hours. This was a result of a gentleman waving a gun from a balcony at home in West Hills.
Yeah, ended right where it started. With all those officers, the huge response, as Mike showed us the map, they had circled. He had pretty much stayed in one general area and ended up driving right back to the garage that he had been waving the gun around on that balcony.
As you see, there is a large response, and that's because this was all part of an earlier standoff. We're going to end that here. For Mike Rogers on the assignment desk and Desmond Shaw up in KCAL, Jasmine Veal next to me here on the anchor desk. I'm Jeff Vaughn. Stay with us. We'll have complete coverage of this at the top of the hour on KCAL News.